Hi everybody. This video is going to start kind of in the middle of your structure of an essay notes. I have a video that kind of goes over introduction paragraphs, so I wanted to make a video to cover body paragraphs and conclusion paragraphs. Body paragraphs, that's the meat of your essay, so that's where all of the good juicy stuff goes. So your body paragraph of an essay consists of at least 3 paragraphs. In a standard 5-paragraph essay, you should have a conclusion, an introduction, and then you should have 3 body paragraphs, okay? And then each of those body paragraphs should prove a point about your thesis statement. So I mentioned chunking in another video, but I want you to know that body paragraphs should be divided into sections or chunks. So every body paragraph has a topic sentence. And then after that topic sentence, you have a chunk. And a chunk consists of general evidence, specific evidence, and commentary. Now, some paragraphs may have 2 or 3 chunks in them. So we're going to talk about all of those pieces now. So a topic sentence should be the first sentence of a body paragraph. In this first essay, your thesis should include a plan of development. I want you to use a plan of development. Now, a plan of development is those 3 points that your essay is going to prove, what your body paragraphs are going to be about. So in the example that we have here, our thesis statement here says, the essential characteristics of a good parent are patience, respect, and love. Well, patience, respect, and love, that's our plan of development. So I know, based on this thesis statement, that the first body paragraph is going to be about patience. I know the second body paragraph is going to be about respect, and I know the third body paragraph is going to be about love, because we have this plan of development here in the thesis statement. So when you're creating a topic sentence, your topic sentence should be the first sentence of your body paragraph, and that sentence should directly relate to whatever points in the plan of development you're working on. So if this is our first body paragraph, then the first point listed in our thesis statement is patience. So our sentence, our topic sentence, should be about patience. So here's an example. One essential characteristic of a good parent is patience. And so then I know that everything in that body paragraph is going to be about patience. And then after your topic sentence, then we start looking at proof, general proof and specific proof. We start with general proof and then we move into specific proof. I have another video and another set of notes about the difference in general and specific proof that you really need to look at. And then after your proof, you have commentary. Commentary is the most important part of every essay you're ever going to write, okay? So your commentary is where you get to prove why your evidence supports your thesis statement. It's where your opinion comes from. It's where you respond to or you make a point about that evidence and how it proves your point. Be sure you do not use the words, in my opinion. I know it's your opinion because you're writing the paper. So you want to eliminate that from your vocabulary when it comes to essay writing. You also want to be sure you're using transition words and phrases. You should have a transition between each paragraph, but you should also have a transition between ideas in your body paragraph. So between evidence and commentary, or between general evidence and specific evidence, you should see transition phrases. So moreover, further, furthermore, similarly, those are phrases in between examples or pieces of evidence that are alike. Nevertheless, on the other hand, on the contrary, those are going to be in between pieces of proof that are opposite one another. Time words like then, eventually, meanwhile, next, to begin with, those are time words, that create a chronological order of your evidence. And then we have, for instance, or for example, those are transition phrases that we would use before specific evidence. And for this reason, and it follows that, for this reason, that would be a transition that you would use at the beginning of commentary. Okay? So, let's overview. How do you write good body paragraphs? Well, first, find proof that supports your thesis statement. And then organize that proof into general evidence, specific evidence, and then your opinion or your commentary about it. Write a concise topic sentence. Be sure that the 3 points in your plan of development from your thesis statement are different and very specific, because if they're too much alike, then your evidence is going to overlap and you'll have structural problems in your essay. Letter D, E, and F refer to quotes. We're not going to spend a lot of time about quotes right now, because when we start writing your midterm paper and when you write your research paper, you will have to have quotes for those two. And so we'll talk more in depth about quotation use in those lessons. For this first essay, you are not to use direct quotes or paraphrases. You should only be using evidence that you have experienced in your own life. Always remember your audience. You have lived a life very different from me or anyone else in the world. So your experiences are different from my experiences. So don't assume that your readers know what you know. Be sure that you are explaining everything very, very clearly in your videos. In your essays. So things that you do not want to do in body paragraphs. You do not ever, ever, ever want to begin or end a paragraph with specific evidence or a quotation. You should always start a paragraph with the topic sentence, not evidence. You should always end a paragraph with commentary, not evidence. You also don't want to use too many pieces of evidence, because the bulk of your paragraph should be your commentary. It should be your ideas and your opinions, not the evidence that you can find from someone else or some other source. And do not ever leave a quote or a piece of evidence hanging. You always, always, always follow it up with commentary. The last part of a 5-paragraph essay is the conclusion paragraph. So the conclusion paragraph is, it has 3 distinct parts, and it's basically your introduction flipped. So your introduction paragraph starts kind of in a V shape like this. So you start really broad and general with background information, and it gets more narrow and more narrow, and then at the end of the introduction is your thesis statement, that specific sentence that tells you specifically what the essay is about. Well, your conclusion is the opposite. It starts with that thesis statement, and then it gets more broad as you finish the paragraph. So, how do you start with a thesis statement? Well, you reword your thesis statement. You take your thesis statement from your introduction, and you reword it. You do not copy and paste it. It should mean the same thing. It should include the same information. It should be said in a different way. And then after you restate your thesis, then you kind of summarize your evidence and your opinion. You don't want to copy and paste here either. You just want to kind of summarize the ideas that you've had. And then the very last sentence of a conclusion paragraph is your general statement. I call it the so what statement. You want to explain to your readers in this last section, like, why all of the stuff that you just wrote was important for them to read. How is it going to help them make decisions or be better humans, or how's it going to help society? Why do people need to know the things that you have written down? So a couple of things I want you to be very careful of in a conclusion paragraph. No evidence, no specific evidence or quotation should ever be used in a conclusion. Don't repeat an explanation of something. You can mention them, but don't go into detail and repeat them. Don't introduce new ideas or your personal opinion. Now, your personal opinion is kind of weaved throughout, but you're not saying, in my opinion, yada, yada, yada. So you're kind of summarizing your explanations and you're summarizing your commentary here. And you never want to use phrases like, this essay proves, or it was shown, or in conclusion. You want to stay away from those things. Some general information about essay writing in itself. You never use first-person pronouns. We talked about this in another video. I have them listed here. They're also listed in your your handouts packet for English 101. But these are the first and second person pronouns. I, me, us, we, you, your, yours, yourself, my, our or ours, mine, yourselves, myself, ourselves. Eliminate them from your academic vocabulary. You cannot have them in an essay. You can use third-person pronouns. So he, she, it, one, they, them, their, themselves. Those are okay. So no first and second person, yes, third person. You always also want to use present tense verbs, okay? You want to write in the present tense. So instead of saying Sally went to the grocery store, you say Sally goes to the grocery store. All of your verbs should act as if they are happening right now. Don't use abbreviations. That's not formal. ETC, that is an abbreviation for etc. IE, that is an abbreviation for that is. Do not use shortened words like cause instead of because. That's not appropriate. Cause has a completely different definition than the word because. So don't use abbreviations and don't use symbols. Don't use dollar sign. I'm sorry, not dollar signs. Don't use plus signs, percent signs, the pound sign, or hashtag. That's not appropriate for formal English. Also, don't use numerals. So like a numeral 1 or the numeral 2 unless it's an address, a date, or it's longer than 3 digits. Anything less than 100 should be spelled out. So instead of writing the number 2, you should spell out the word 2. Another thing that you're really going to focus on more in English 102 is that you don't ever use just the first name of an author. You always use first and last name or just the last name. So if you're writing a paper on something that you read from William Shakespeare, you would say William Shakespeare or Shakespeare. You would not just say William. All right. And that is all we have for now for the structure of an essay. We will go into more detail, a little more depth with some of these concepts in the coming weeks as you start writing your essays. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to email me. Thank you.